Hello and welcome to the Encounter Mercy podcast. I'm your host, Vince Dragone. I have with me Father Andy, as usual, and today we have a very special guest, Father Dan Hoffman from Our Lady of the Lake in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. Father Dan has been a priest for over 10 years, and he's in charge of campus ministry at Edinburgh University in conjunction with four Focus missionaries. Father Dan is also a judge on the marriage tribunal in the Diocese of Erie.
Which, reminds me that we got to get you come back for another episode for some of the other questions that came up in a few of our last episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. So thank you very much, Father Dan, for joining us. And I guess before we get started, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a joy to be here. A little nervous. It's the first podcast I've ever recorded. So
you're going to do fine.
Bear with me.
Oh, yeah.
But really happy to be here. The mission of evangelization through technology is very dear to my heart, and I'm happy to be a part of your mission and help spread the gospel in this way. So I am the oldest of three. I am 36 years old. Like Vince said, I've been a priest for 10 years. The best gift I've ever received was my ordination day, June 12th, 2009. And every day as a priest is a gift. Obviously not always easy, but very blessed to be a priest and my many assignments. I started as a parochial vicar in Greenville, Pennsylvania. And from there, I went to canon law school in Washington, D.C. at Catholic University for 2 years. And then after that, I've been back in the diocese at St. Luke's Parish as the parochial vicar there. I worked as the vice chancellor in the chancery, and from there, I've been at Our Lady of the Lake as the pastor now for the past 6 years. And very blessed to be there as the pastor and to work with the college students and our four Focus missionaries, which hopefully maybe we can do an episode.
Yeah, I want to get them on.
That would be cool.
Yeah,
real quick, just briefly, what are Focus missionaries?
Yeah.
What do they do?
So Focus stands for Fellowship of Catholic University Students. And they are young adult Catholics ranging from, 20 to 35 years old, generally, that have already finished their college degree and are inspired to give a couple years of mission to evangelization on the college campus. And so they are sent by Focus to various college campuses across the country and even throughout the world. And we're privileged to have 4 in Edinburgh. But I think Focus now has over 100 university campuses that they're at across the country and globally.
Yeah, because it only started at like 1 or 2, right? It was really small.
It started at this small college in Kansas, Benedictine College. And from there, it really just exploded.
Wow. Thank God for that.
Absolutely.
Man, we could use those in so many more places in our diocese, but in our world.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I guess let's get right into it. So, Father Dan, what are Marian Apparitions?
So basically what the word signifies, Mary, our Blessed Mother, is appearing even to this day in places throughout the world. And throughout history, there have been 9 major approved apparitions by the church. But Mary is still appearing to this day to many people. And we can get into the details of private revelation versus public revelation. But I think essentially what a Marian apparition is our mother still wants to be a mother to us. Mm-hmm. Our mother is still coming to us to lead us to her son, to lead us to a deeper life of prayer, a deeper life of holiness, and ultimately to show us the way to heaven. So our mother is still coming to mother us. And in a sense. And I think that's basically the easiest way to describe what a Marian apparition is. Mary is still mothering her children, mothering the church. And it's beautiful how she keeps coming to us.
And if you haven't listened to our episode on Mary called Theotokos, go back and listen to it where we kind of explain why we see Mary the way we do.
Yeah.
And why no other Christian denomination even looks at Mary the same way we do.
Right.
And this is, if you haven't listened to that, I would stop this and go back to that because that's going to explain a lot of things that will, that we're going to talk about today that we're not going to go into too much detail on. But the biggest thing I would say is Mary always points to Jesus in anything that she does. So no, we're not worshiping Mary. Mary's always pointing the way to Jesus. She always leads us to Christ. And so that's kind of, we're going to touch on some of those things when we get to private and public revelation and whether or not you need to believe in these things. I know some people don't have the strongest devotion to Mary and others do. And I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle there.
Sure.
But just to kind of get that out of the way, go listen to Theotokos if you haven't already. So
that leads me into my question. All right, Father, I'm the skeptic. I have to play devil's advocate because why not put the other priests in the room in charge of doing that? And for those of you who don't know, that's actually a term that we use in canon law. But so as devil's advocate, I don't know about this, Father. Do I really have to believe that Mary is appearing for my salvation?
Good question, Father Andy.
Yeah, of course. Like I said, the other priest in the room asking the difficult questions.
Absolutely not. It's not essential for you to believe in Marian apparitions to be saved. What is essential for salvation is what we hear in the scriptures. Anyone who believes that Jesus is the Son of God is saved, has salvation. But is it helpful to salvation? Absolutely.
Amen. Yeah.
It's helpful to salvation. So even the church would say Marian apparitions are not essential to our salvation, essential to profess belief in, but is it helpful to lead us to our salvation? Yes, because as Vince beautifully said, Mary always leads us to the Lord and to the church. Two key words, authentic Marian devotion, and we can extend that to authentic Marian apparitions are always both one, Christocentric, which means Christ-centered, and ecclesial-centric, which means church-centered.
That's a very good point.
That's how the church determines authenticity of these Marian apparitions. Are they leading to a deeper relationship with Christ, but also are they leading to a deeper relationship with the church and the church's revelation and dogma and doctrine and the sacraments and such and such? So yeah, are they essential for us to believe in? No, but why not believe in them, in my opinion?
Yeah.
Because they help us to believe more deeply in the essential facts of our faith in Jesus and in the church.
Okay, so that leads to my second question, and I think this is going to help us go a little bit further into some of the actual apparitions. But now, how is it that we determine which apparition's true or not? Because Susie from down the street's telling me that Mary's appearing to her every 5 minutes to tell her to bathe her cats. Is that a real Marian apparition, or is it something that maybe she just needs some help?
Well,
yeah, I know. I'm asking all the hard questions here. Someone's got to do it.
Again, I think we judge the authenticity of these Marian apparitions by the fruit they bear to the church at large. So authentic Marian apparitions are always going to be for the greater good of the church, for the larger community of the church. So that does not negate the consolation and the grace that we receive in prayer, that we're called to receive in prayer every day. Every day, the Lord wants to speak deeply into your heart. Every day, the Lord has a word for you to receive, you personally to receive, to grow in holiness and love. And Mary too, in our prayer and our relationship with her can have that word. But oftentimes those things are just meant for you, or maybe through you for your family or for your immediate circle of family or friends.
Okay.
That does not rise to the level of public apparition. So public apparitions, like the ones we'll get into, are always meant for the greater good of the church. They always have a universal, in a sense, Catholic, in that sense, meaning universal message of salvation, a universal message of truth and teaching for the entire church, the entire world.
So you mentioned there are 9 approved Marian apparitions by the Vatican, correct?
Correct.
And I'm assuming Fatima is one of them.
Correct, yeah.
Let's talk about Fatima, because I think when you think of Marian apparitions, that's the one that I would say most people probably think of first.
Oh, what a perfect day, not to break the fourth wall, but today's her feast day.
Well, Lords.
Well,
Lady of
Lord.
Lords.
Oh, my mistake. Lord. See, I mix them up all
That's
the
all
time.
right. No worries. We'll talk about Fatima, but we should talk about Lords too, because
certainly.
it is my favorite one after all, Lords. But
well, why don't we save the best for last?
But yeah, we'll do Fatima because you're right. That's the one that's probably the most popular.
You're right. Yeah.
And also, I think the one that's the most misunderstood because of the so-called secrets. Of Fatima.
Right. Right.
So yeah. So basically, Fatima, Mary appeared to 3 children: Lucia and her 2 cousins, Francisco and Jacinta. And they saw Mary 6 times between May and October of 1917. And in this particular apparition, she described herself as Our Lady of the Rosary, and she urged prayer, particularly the Rosary, as well as penance for the conversion of sinners and the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart. So that's basically
Russia.
Fatima in a nutshell. But
all right, I'm not a history person. I'm really dumb and stupid because I didn't do well in history. So tell me, what's going on in the world about this time? Does anybody, do you know?
What year was this?
1912, did you say?
1917.
17. It's right
World
before
War I was still going on.
Yeah.
Wrapping up in 1918.
Yeah. So there's a lot of craziness going on.
Yeah, the world was in a lot of turmoil at this time.
And I think that's an important thing to note because every time we look at one of these apparitions, something is going on major in our world.
Sure.
And so as we go through these, they're not going to be in order of time. They're kind of just going to be how we feel to put them together. But pay attention, because if you listen to the years, it's going to show that there's some craziness going on in the world that Our Lady is trying to speak to in one way or another.
Absolutely. She's always trying to lead us to a correction, if you will. So like Father Andy said, there's something, that is basically breaking the heart of her son. And so she's appearing so that we can be a part of the solution, if you will, to be a part of the healing of the church and of the world. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So, and when we're paying attention to her messages that she says in all these different apparitions, she's saying things that I think even each of us have experienced, not just the 3 of us here, but I think every person at some point in their life has experienced the pain that she's going to try to speak of. And so she's trying to call us back to a repentance and to follow Christ. Like you said, a Christocentric understanding.
So what were some of the lessons to be learned out of Fatima? What were some of the things that Mary was saying to these children?
Well, before I think we go into the particulars, I think Father Andy mentioned something that is important, is that each of the Marian apparitions, they all have something they each hold things in common. And part of that message in common is that Mary always urges us to deeper prayer, to penance in reparation for our sins and the sins of the world, and to a level of sacrificial love. That's across the board for every single Marian apparition. But what's cool about the apparitions, at least for me, is that Mary always, again, she's a great mother, so she always appears in a way that is recognizable for the people of that area or that time.
Sure.
And so obviously when she appeared at Fatima, she appeared as a beautiful, fair-skinned Portuguese woman that was very motherly to these children. And she encouraged them to just be children of prayer, specifically for nations like Russia that were undergoing great turmoil and great,
Sure. The Bolshevik Revolution
Absolutely.
was less than 20 years, prior to that. A lot of people were dying.
Yeah, it was bad.
There were famines, all sorts of bad stuff going on. Plus, they were in the middle of a war.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, we just realize that, Mary's a mother, so she loves us, but she also wants to discipline us in a way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she revealed to, I think it was one of the children, I'm sorry, I don't know which one it was, but she basically gave him or her a vision of what hell looks like.
Right.
Not to, be unkind or mean to her, but to say our souls are valuable to Jesus, and we need to make sure that we're keeping them on the right track.
Yeah, and that this is a reality.
I was going to say, this is
a reality that we have to pay attention
Absolutely.
to. Because if we ignore it, we become like those in our society that have said there's no such thing as sin.
Right.
And that leads us to a problem.
Very dangerous.
So Mary's calling us back to this repentance.
Absolutely, yeah.
what are some other things? I don't remember everything about this. I remember, all right, so back in grade school, Catholic grade school, I remember watching a video on this, and I think it was the strangest video, but it was, they tried to use it in 5th grade to show us what this whole apparition was. Mm-hmm. And I remember the kids, Mary appearing to them, and 2 of them saying, "We can't hear her. We can't hear her." And so she says, "Tell them to pray 5 more rosaries, and then they'll be able to hear me." I don't know if that was true or not. I have a feeling that that's just for the video. But any other major things from this apparition that you think has been important? I know that we threw this at you like really fast in the last few days, so I feel bad not giving you enough time. But I know you love this topic, and that's why I thought we got to bring you on for this one.
Absolutely, and just going through my notes, it was Lucia that was revealed.
Okay.
The vision of hell, and that's considered the first quote unquote secret of Fatima.
Okay.
And this is what Mary said to Lucia: "You have seen hell, where the souls of poor sinners go. To save them, God wishes to establish in the world devotion to my Immaculate Heart. If what I say to you is done, many souls will be saved and there will be peace. The war is going to end. But if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pope Pius XI." And then she goes on. But she's saying, let me be a mother to you. Let me lead you to Jesus. Let me show you the way to salvation. It's just a beautiful way.
It is a very beautiful thing.
But I think another specific about Fatima that, a lot of people kind of know about is the miracle of the sun.
Yes. Yeah. Tell me more about that. Tell our listeners about that.
So basically during this miracle, the sun looked like it was dancing in the sky, and it was a thunderstorm, a rainy day. And then all of it during the apparition, everything cleared and everything dried up, and the sun basically, looked like it was super close and dancing in the sky.
Wow. Wasn't there something like 30,000 people reported, or 30,000 witnesses seen it, something like that, where it's not just these 3 kids that
right.
see
it was a lot of people, I think.
It was. There were a lot of witnesses. It says, I'm not sure exactly the number, but
more than just 3 random kids.
Absolutely.
So like this is something that more people have seen, so it's not just something that the church is making this story up. Like this is real. This really happened. Outside witnesses are reporting to this.
Right. And you're not going to have 30,000, you're not going to have thousands of people, or not even tens of people just having a vision of this. And it's not, they're not just, help me with the word.
They're not in some sort of ecstasy. This is a reality.
Exactly.
This is something that's really happening in their eyes.
And it's affirmed, but like you said, by a lot of people. And again, the church takes these things seriously.
Yes.
It's not like this happened and then 3 days later, like, oh yeah, the church said this is authentic. And it takes literally decades, sometimes hundreds of years after investigation for the church to make a determination. There is authenticity here. And this is something worthy of belief.
Well, something I read today was, it seems like the average amount of time for the church to approve an apparition is about 100 years, sometimes longer.
Yeah. And the apparitions have to have stopped. That's the other major thing is like the apparitions have to have stopped. That's why if we get into this at some point, there's an apparition that is very famous. Sorry about all of our listeners as I hit the microphone. There's a very famous apparition that's happening to this day, but the church hasn't come out with an official statement on it.
Margigori, right?
Medjugorje.
I can't pronounce it. That's why he's correct.
Because we're in America, so it's a Medjugorje. No, it's Medjugorje. And so, the church hasn't made an official statement on it. There's been some minor statements, but nothing official. So, that's why we're talking, it takes some time that the church doesn't say, my friend down the street who's seeing Mary. Yeah, that really happened. No, that takes some time before the church will say yes.
Absolutely.
Which is a good thing.
It is.
Right. We can't just go around saying that everything happened. Anyone could walk around. I mean, you can get book deals for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And just to make some money.
Maybe
Jesus appeared in my waffle or my omelet.
Oh, we should have had waffles for dinner tonight. We could have made some money. I mean, anyway, so what's another Marian apparition maybe that, we said there were 9 that were officially taught, if there's nothing else you want to say on that first, I kind of...
No, it's
jump
okay.
the
I think
gun.
we can move on to the next another one if you want.
Yeah, please. Yeah. What's another?
Well, today's actually the feast day of Our Lady of Lourdes, February 11th.
All right.
So I think it'd be very appropriate to talk about Lourdes.
Yeah, I think so too, and that would be a good one. Another good one that we can go in depth on. Because these are some good apparitions and good stories.
Have you been there?
I have not. It's on my bucket list.
Okay.
Of all
do that.
Of all the Marian Apparition sites, Lourdes is number one on my list. Guadalupe is a close second, but I definitely want to get to Lourdes.
And I want to talk about why it's your favorite as well.
So Lourdes is based on healing in a lot of ways, and just Mary leading us to not only physical healing, which she does and is continuing to do through her intercession at Lourdes, but just that deeper healing of the heart and the soul of when we really surrender to the life of grace and really give our lives over to Christ. And so healing has just been a very big part of my own spiritual life, but also a charism that I see in my own life that I want to bring to others, especially like the spiritual, emotional healing that comes when hearing confessions or doing spiritual direction, offering the greatest gift of healing in the Eucharist, in the Mass. So I just have a really kinship to Mary's charism of being a mother and bringing us to greater healing. So yeah, I think that's why I'm so attracted to Lourdes myself. But basically, Lourdes, the summary is that Mary started appearing to this little girl, Bernadette, Saint Bernadette now, when she was 14 years old. She appeared 18 total times, and in this little town of Lourdes, which is in southern France, in this grotto of Masse Biel. And Masse Biel was actually French for, I think, garbage dump, right? I'm pretty sure.
I'm not good with languages, but that kind of makes sense.
Because that's basically what it was. That's where people dump their garbage, and which is interesting that Mary would choose to appear there to show that everything can be redeemed, everything can be saved. But anyways, her basic message at Lourdes was penance and prayer for the conversion of sinners. And this is where she described herself as the Immaculate Conception. And Lourdes is most famous for the miraculous spring, which has been responsible for many cures accepted by the Church.
Because I was listening to, every morning after I wake up, I ask the home assistant, who I will not say their name, because if anybody's listening on speakers and this wakes it up, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that for you. But
Alexa.
I ask her, what's the news? And I get the local and the national news. But then I also listen to Saints of the Day by Franciscan Media. And I really like that because, once again, it was talking about Our Lady today. And so it was today that was the first apparition, right? So that today, to break the immersion, it's the 11th of February. So on the 11th of February is her feast day. But it was a month later, during the apparition, that she stated that she was the Immaculate Conception. So at first, she's just saying that it's just this random lady, this beautiful lady, because that's the other thing. Everybody always says it's this beautiful lady at first. She doesn't say who she is right away. She's just a beautiful lady. And then it was a month later, she said, I am the Immaculate Conception.
And from everything that I've read in looking at Marian Apparitions, it usually the person who's witnessing it, just describes the woman, Mary, as just a beautiful lady, doesn't know who she is at first.
Yeah.
Oftentimes appears in white.
Yeah.
But it's later revealed that she is Mary, as I guess they build rapport.
Yeah.
Or, after time goes on.
Which I know the story better when we get to Guadalupe. That's that story right there, that beautiful story. But
what's amazing about Lourdes is that, this happened just 4 years after the Church officially proclaimed the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. So Mary, in a way, is affirming,
That's
like,
beautiful.
the church is right. The Church didn't make a mistake. I am the Immaculate Conception, and you can believe in this. And the Immaculate Conception is a dogma that is necessary for us to believe in as Catholics, because again, it's not Jesus's Immaculate Conception. It's Mary's Immaculate Conception in her mother, St. Anne's womb, because she was to be the vessel of grace, the Mother of God.
That's so important to remember, because you're right. That is an awesome way for her to say, yeah, you got it right, guys. For once, you got it right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
She's saying, yes, I am the Immaculate Conception. You have named me that because it is true.
And I got to say, going back to what you mentioned with the healing, from what I hear, again, I haven't been there either, but there's a lot of crutches and wheelchairs and walkers that are left there because of the physical healings that happen there.
Absolutely.
And that's the physical side of things where you can, a lot of people need to see something to believe it.
Right.
And that's one of those things where that's a witness to, to me, it's very beautiful because you have all these people were healed. They were physically healed, and it's not just their faith that was healed.
Right.
And that happens a lot as well. But for those people who are questioning, that's a way to lead you to Jesus.
Yes.
Because that's what Jesus did. In the Gospels, you see Jesus healing people that the blind man, the guy with the limpy arm,
right?
And it's being done. What? Come on,
limpy arm. The withered arm. The withered arm.
Well, it's just a testament that God is willing to do anything to get our attention.
Yes.
God doesn't want us to be sick. He doesn't want us to die. He doesn't want us to be burdened by sin. He's willing to go to the nth degree to get our attention. And so even like these physical healings and miracles are still happening today. God is trying to show us, I'm real. Pay attention to me,
Yeah.
And Marian apparitions are, I believe, a really strong part of that. Absolutely. Yeah.
So tell me more about her story, because I remember this vaguely from school, but
so of course no one believed her. Everyone thought she was crazy, and so she just.
All right, we're gonna stop here for a second.
We gotta stop for a commercial break from a word from our sponsors. Just kidding, we don't have any sponsors, but we do have to take a break.
We'll be right back with this question.
Yeah, Mary started appearing to Saint Bernadette on the 11th of February in 1858. And the first time, I think we mentioned this already, but she saw a beautiful young girl in a niche in the grotto near this rocky outcrop called Mas Biel, which again was basically the garbage dump of the town. It was outside of the town, but she saw a brilliant light, this beautiful lady, and this woman with her arms extended towards Bernadette, and the woman was holding a rosary. And so the woman asked her to pray the rosary with her, which she did, and then she just kept asking Bernadette, come back. And every time she came back, she had more things to say to her. Eventually, Mary asked Bernadette to go to the parish priest and tell him about this. And of course, the priest didn't believe her.
Of course,
those dang priests.
Those dang priests. They just don't know what you're talking about.
Always skeptics, right? But over time, the priest saw the genuine devotion and love in Bernadette, and he like, okay, there has to be something here. I'm not exactly sure if she's seeing Mary, but something is happening in her because she is just so filled with joy and so filled with peace. And I think again, that's another way to judge a apparition's authenticity. Is there genuine good fruit that is happening in the person? Is it leading the person to become more selfless instead of selfish? Is it leading the person to become more prayerful? Is it leading someone to become more sacrificial in their love and do good and lead a life of virtue? Again, that's another way to, I think, judge the authenticity of a Marian devotion. So anyways, Father is seeing this in Bernadette, and he's intrigued. And so he says, okay, keep going and let me know. Eventually Mary says to Bernadette, okay, I want you to start digging. And so she starts digging, and that's when the spring of water comes up.
Wow.
And to this day, that spring of water is still there, and people, as we mentioned, flock there from all over the world to bathe in those waters. Those baths are still there, and there are miraculous healings. If you just go online and type in Lourdes, every day you can see there's a beautiful procession, rosary procession, candlelight procession, and just flocks of people that go there to encounter the healing of Jesus through Our Lady.
Yeah, that candlelight procession, I hear about that a lot, and how much that is so moving for people when they get there. And yeah, well, you know what? I think, Father, we're just going to have to make a plan to go there soon.
Sure, absolutely.
Once I get back, you too, Vince.
I'll tag
come on.
along.
All right, the three of us, we'll go on a pilgrimage, and we'll bring the podcast with us. What do you think?
That'd be cool.
That'd be fun.
That would be cool.
Live from Lourdes.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun. But future, I got to go to the Holy Land first.
Lucky.
Which I think while I'm there, this episode's going to go live. So
maybe. How's that going to happen?
I don't know.
Breaking
the fourth wall. Yeah. Anyway. So Lourdes, how long did it go on for, the apparitions? I don't remember.
You know what? I'm not exactly sure.
It went on for a while, but I mean, it wasn't hundreds of years, obviously, because it's only while she was alive that it was happening.
Right. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how long it went on, but
it's okay. We can always put that in the show notes.
Yeah,
if I
remember.
Now
notes.
You're gonna have to. Yeah,
I'm gonna
have to actually
back.
look it up.
Yeah,
you got some homework to do.
Great.
Yep.
But one cool thing about Saint Bernadette, just as a side note, is that she's an incorrupt saint.
Oh.
So basically, have you done incorrupt saint?
No, we haven't done
so
that
why don't you
yet.
explain?
Yeah, please.
So, when the church, examines a cause for canonization, one thing they do immediately is they exhume the body of a saint, one, to get relics, which if you haven't talked about relics
Not yet. That's another good topic that you can come back and talk to us about, because you were good on that one.
To be continued. But one thing they see is the state of the body. And there are many saints that are considered incorrupt. Basically, they, as it sounds, did not decay at all after they died. Saint Bernadette is one of those saints, and it's a mark, obviously, that the Lord had blessed this person with outstanding sanctity, even in the sense that he didn't even want their physical body to undergo any corruption. So you can still see the incorrupt body of Saint Bernadette to this day. And
where's she at?
She is, I believe she's at a place called Père Le Monial.
Okay. Near Lourdes, I'm assuming?
Near Lourdes.
Near Lourdes, okay.
But she's in a glass coffin. And if you look at her, again, I encourage you, just Google Saint Bernadette. You'll see she just looks like she's sound asleep.
Yeah.
She has the rose in her cheeks. She looks just like the day she died, just peacefully sleeping. And it's amazing.
That is amazing.
And I think it's just, again, another sign of the authenticity of this Marian apparition for her, but also the good fruit that came from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Yeah. That's a beautiful story. Lourdes is just such a great story. So many wonderful things have come from there. So many healings, like we said. So thank God for Mary, and thank God for her apparitions. But I think one that we all would know pretty well, I think, at least coming from the States, and I don't know, going to a Catholic grade school in the United States for some reason always brought this up, and is Guadalupe, and the story there, because like I said, I think it's one that a lot of people are going to know right away. And it's one that I had to study a lot, because I had to study La Lengua de Español in Miami. So I had to study Spanish in Miami at some fun times in the summer over seminary. And of course, they talked heavily about that there. So
I should have brought my Our Lady of Guadalupe candle down. I was
never
going
thought
to
of
bring
that.
it down. I had it in my hand. I'm like, last time I lit this, it didn't stay lit. So
next time. That's all right. We have to do something on. I think we should do full episode on Guadalupe, but that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
I think you could do a whole podcast on Our Lady of Guadalupe, but this one happened in 1531. She appeared 4 times to Saint Juan Diego on this little hill outside of Mexico City, and in this apparition, she proclaimed herself as a spiritual mother to the world. And what's so beautiful about this apparition is that she actually left a physical image of herself on what's called a tilma, which would be basically a cloak that the native Indians of that area would wear. She left her image, which we know today as the image of Our Lady of Guadalupe, on this tilma. And to this day, that tilma, which was made basically out of cactus fibers, which would decay and break apart after probably just years, for over 500 years now?
Yeah, it's been a crazy...
Nearly 500 years.
Yeah.
That tilma has not decayed, and that image is just as clear and vibrant as the day she left that image on her tilma.
And also, didn't I hear there was a bomb that exploded not too far from it?
Yeah.
destroyed a lot of things around it, but didn't even touch it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It was protected.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's such a great story. The fact that Juan Diego walking to daily mass every single day, trying to go to daily mass, and he would always cross through this area, and she appeared to him. This is where you really hear about when he goes and talks to the bishop, a beautiful lady.
Yeah, just a beautiful lady again.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I love about Our Lady of Guadalupe is that, again, Mary wants to affirm the revelation that happens both in the scriptures, but also in the tradition. But in this case, the sacred scriptures, because she's literally on the tilma, as the image that she leaves behind, she is clothed with the stars and the sun.
Yeah.
And that is exactly how the book of Revelation in the New Testament describes Our Lady in the celestial kingdom, in the heavenly kingdom, that she's clothed with the stars and the sun, with the moon beneath her feet. And that is the exact image that she leaves on the tilma of St. Juan Diego.
How cool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And isn't it, and I don't know if we can affirm this 100%, but I remember Father Justin Matro mentioning in class when we discussed this, that as they studied it more and more, her eyes were they were just so vibrant and could reflect the image of Juan Diego showing this to the bishop. There's something about that I remember studying and hearing in class. That, I mean, it's almost like a living thing. Not that it's has a heartbeat, but it shows something very a story. It's showing a story that's alive.
There have been so many just studies done on this image and on the tilma itself, and everyone that studies it is actually drawn not only into the beauty of the tilma, but they all have stories of immense conversion because of the grace of God that is present. Again, not taking the place of God, but this apparition, this image is leading them to an encounter with God.
Sure.
And it's amazing.
Remind me, so Juan Diego's going to mass every day. What was it that Mary asked of him?
She wanted him to build a chapel on this hill. And so Mary says to St. Juan Diego, take this message and tell the bishop to build a church. And again, those darn bishops and priests, they never believe, they never want to believe. So hopefully that's never the case with Father Andy.
I pray not for both of our sakes.
Never. But the bishop's basically like, yeah, right. Show me some proof. And so St. Juan Diego actually tries to avoid Mary because he's afraid that he doesn't want to go back to the bishop just because he's just a very simple guy and it doesn't want to be shut down again. But so he actually goes a different way, but Mary is smarter than him and appears. And basically Mary tells Juan Diego, okay, if bishop wants proof, go up to the top of the mountain and pick these roses, Castilian roses, which it was December. So there was no way naturally that those roses would ever be in bloom during winter. But there they were in full bloom. Pick the roses, put them in your tilma, and give those to the bishop as proof.
And he thinks that just these roses is what's going to be the proof. And that would be, I don't know about you, but that would be proof enough for me.
Sure. And little does he know.
And once he drops his tilma, we get this beautiful image.
The image is left behind. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that was. And now to this day, that little chapel that Mary wanted St. Juan Diego to build is now a huge church, a huge basilica just outside of Mexico City, where millions and millions of pilgrims every year flock to.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to go. I'm just terrified to go into Mexico City.
It's kind of funny because not to bring this topic up, but going to the Holy Land, that was my fear the first time. Because everybody says, oh, you're going to die. It's going to be horrible. People are going to attack you. And then you get there and this is awesome. Nobody's going to hurt you. So I kind of feel like maybe that would be like that. I don't know. The drug lords scare me. But I would love to go to see this little chapel that's now a basilica.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Just a beautiful idea.
Another cool thing. Sorry, I love Our Lady Guadalupe.
Please go.
Is that all right?
Yeah, please.
Another cool thing about Our Lady is she's pregnant in the image.
I never realized that.
Yeah, I forgot.
So if you look closely at the image, she is wearing. First of all, again, I think I mentioned Mary always appears in the kind of the customary dress, but also the customary way that they would look in that region. So
Skin color and things like that.
So Mary appears to these, these native
Incas.
Indians,
or Aztecs.
Aztecs, darker skinned, with kind of the features of a typical Aztec woman, but she is visibly pregnant. She has a little baby bump, which is awesome, but you can tell she's pregnant because she has the traditional Aztec, basically labor band around her waist. If you look at the image closely, which is profound on a lot of reasons. One, she is the patroness for the unborn. Right. And of course, that is the greatest scourge, I think, upon our country and upon our culture is, the terrible killing of our unborn brothers and sisters in abortion. Absolutely. So that she's a fitting patroness for that.
This makes a lot of sense because I see the pictures all the time of the Franciscans in New York City marching to the abortion clinics. Yeah. And they have this huge image of Our Lady of Guadalupe behind them. Yes. And they do it all the time. And I've always wondered why Our Lady of... Now, that all makes sense.
Absolutely.
It all makes sense.
But again, she's also speaking to the kind of cultural atrocities of that time. Right. And during that time, the Aztecs were known for offering child sacrifices.
Yeah. Yep.
And so it's a visible witness and a visible challenge to that culture saying, this is not what God intends. So just as she is doing it in the 1500s in Mexico, God does not intend you to sacrifice your children. Even to this day, Mary is still saying, God does not intend us to sacrifice our children on the altar of convenience and abortion. Right. It's just a beautiful continuing witness of our Mary leading us to a deeper faith and conversion of the truth, I love of how beautiful life is.
A message over 500 years ago still rings true today.
Absolutely.
And it's beautiful in the same thing. It's sad. It's sad that we still have to say that.
Well, yeah, we shouldn't have to.
We shouldn't have to say that. I mean, her message should have been not enough for once, but like you said, out of convenience, out of just ill will, just out of just not wanting to take responsibility, we've now accepted this.
And I think that's what we do as humans. You mentioned Father Andy in a couple episodes back about God and his covenants. Yeah. And does God ever break his covenants?
No, it's always us that breaks his covenants.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
He's always faithful. We are always the ones failing.
We always fail. Yeah. At some point.
But there's salvation. And Mary's, like you said, as we've said over and over again, Mary is always pointing us towards that salvation. She always has a message of hope.
Yeah, Mary is a sign of hope. Because in the image, again, if you look closely, she is standing on the moon, but you see her feet crushing the head of the serpent.
Right.
So through Mary, of course, it's Jesus that wins always, but through Our Lady, Jesus is winning the victory, and Mary is crushing the head of the serpent. And so God wins. We just have to make sure that we allow God to keep winning in us. And Mary is a great sign of how God can keep winning in us.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. But anyways, it's a very beautiful, again, authentic, real, very powerful Marian apparition for our age, for our culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
So let's talk about some other apparitions.
Yeah, whatever. Like I think we could be talking about, like we said, we should do a whole episode just on Guadalupe. There's so much that we could talk about and connecting it with our pro-life work, etc. But just list us some of the other ones.
So yeah, the 9 major ones are, of course, Guadalupe in Mexico, Our Lady of Guadalupe. There's another one that happens in France, the apparitions of the Rue de Bac.
Right.
That's when Mary appeared to St. Catherine Labouré in Paris and revealed to her the devotion of the miraculous medal.
Okay.
There's the apparition of La Salette, which also happened in France.
Seems to be a lot of France.
I think there's a lot to do there with like the whole making reparations for the Avignon papacy and things. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that.
Perhaps. Then there's Lourdes, which we talked about already.
Yeah.
Another one in France, the apparition of Pont-Main in France. I don't know a whole lot about that one. But it in my notes, it just says, Mary appeared in the sky over the small town of Pont-Main in northwestern France to a group of young children for about 3 hours in January of 1871, as the Franco-Prussian War was threatening the area. Oh. Her message appeared on a banner under her feet and encouraged prayer, again, a universal theme, while emphasizing Jesus' love and concern. That village itself was spared invasion.
Wow. Well, now, so there's something else I thought of too. Other than Guadalupe, I'm pretty sure she only appears to children in the beginning. Like they're younger people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think with Guadalupe, with St. Juan Diego, he was, as they say, a simple man. So he wasn't someone that was rich or affluent or important. He was a simple man. And then these children, once again, simple, because children, they are, as you know, Vince as a father, and as we know, Father Dan, as spiritual fathers, the children have the faith that is necessary to preach these messages.
And also, I think the gospel message of Jesus telling us to become more childlike,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To become truly more trusting and surrendering to the Father's heart. And we can learn that message from children. Absolutely.
So what other ones we have?
We have Knock, Ireland.
Ireland.
Yes, good old Ireland.
Mary appeared at Knock, a small village in County Mayo, Ireland, of August 1879. I guess it says a number of villagers of diverse ages here saw a silent apparition, lasted about 3 hours outside the gable into the local church. They saw 3 figures, Mary, Joseph, and St. John the Apostle, as well as the Lamb on the altar and angels.
Right, and you sat there praying for 3 hours. Or how many hours did you say?
It says 3 hours.
3
yeah.
hours.
Mhm.
Not saying.
And this is a very this is a
That's
very
beautiful.
popular devotion too. I know a lot of folks that go to Knock still today. We have Fatima, Portugal, which we chatted about already, and then 2 in Belgium: apparitions of Bourang in Belgium, and the apparitions of Beno in Belgium.
I haven't heard of either of those.
No, I
Neither
can't say
have I. Yep, but yeah, those are the 9 major proved Marian apparitions.
And that's key. There is approved. Because as we mentioned, and we'll just briefly touch on this because I think this could also devote itself to an entire podcast because there's just so much. There's so many people that have a devotion to it, whether it's approved or not. Is Medjugorje. And I mean, I remember back in high school with Father McCormick in World Geography. He talked about it a lot, and he has a somewhat of a devotion to it. So growing up in our home parish, my home parish of St. James, I remember learning a lot about Medjugorje.
I know a couple of people with devotion to it.
Yeah, and a lot of people take trips there.
Yep.
And my mom wants to go there, so another trip that I know one day I'm going to take. But
I know one woman that folds the flyers for them.
Yeah, with Mrs. June Klins. Yeah, okay, yeah, June. She was, funny enough, she was my math tutor in high school, so June's a great lady. But so there's these people that have this devotion to Medjugorje, and I remember a little bit about it. But I see you have an article there by Father John Trujillo.
I do, yeah. Basically, it's just Medjugorje, I think, again, can be judged by, I believe, the fruits that come from it.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of good fruits, like we've said with Lourdes, a lot of healing.
Yeah.
I think what we really, I guess, to start off with, before we start this segment here, is, when we look at an apparition, to know whether it is true, something we should look to, or something that could be an evil spirit.
Yeah.
An evil spirit's not going to tell you to follow Jesus and to follow the church. It's always going to lead you, or I guess, a contrary way from that.
Follow me.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's something that we need to, at least when we're talking about a private revelation of some kind, if someone's talking to you about Susan, who saw Mary telling you to feed her cat, feed your cats, or whatever it is, or bathe your cats.
That poor woman.
You have to look at what's being said.
Right.
And is it leading you to Jesus? As we mentioned, Mary is always pointing the way to Jesus, or is it leading you to something else?
Right.
And that's one way to judge whether or not you can at least put some trust into it.
Right. And one thing to keep in mind too, Father Andy mentioned this, that the church will not make a definitive statement about the authenticity of Marian apparitions until they're done, until Mary stops appearing. And that's one reason the church hasn't made a definitive statement on Medjugorje, because Mary is supposedly still appearing to these visionaries in Medjugorje.
Right.
So, but as Vince said, the fruits are there. Mary's message is the same message that she had in Fatima and Lourdes and Guadalupe. Pray, fast, do penance, sacrifice, come to a deeper conversion and faith in the Lord and in the church that he revealed to you. The same message. And so I think, again, that's another way we can judge that this is, authentic and something to be trusted.
She's always pointing back to Christ.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So once again, Christocentric and ecclesiocentric. So Christ and his church, not anybody else's church,
right.
Christ's church on earth. So
Right.
what a beautiful, beautiful message there. So even though our church hasn't approved it, it's, as far as I know, there's never been a disapproval of it.
No, in fact, Pope Francis very recently, said that there is nothing to prevent any pilgrim to go to Medjugorje, to pray, to go on pilgrimage, to go on retreat there. He said, please go and basically delve into the fruits that are happening there. Again,
asking us to pray for the church.
And that was
Absolutely.
just last year too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because before that,
very recent.
a church wasn't supposed to have a pilgrimage there officially.
Right, official.
Right. It wasn't
Yeah.
the last year that after Pope Francis said
Right.
it was okay that the first one official pilgrimage.
And one of
actually
his
went, right?
major prayers has been, as far as I remember, over the last year, since he said that, even before that, was that we might, that the Lord might show us that this is real, that this is really happening, and
Sure.
this is really, changing hearts. And I think even since then, and like I said, I've been out of high school now 10 years. I can't believe it. I know I'm still young. I'm the youngest in the room. I get that. But that even then, the church was asking, please, Lord, show us your church, that you are really here in a special way through your mother. And she's been saying that ever since.
And again, personally, I judge it by the fruits. There's a woman at my parish, one of my, spiritual directees.
Yeah.
That, recently went to Lourdes, and very already a very devoted, faithful woman of prayer and love, but just a lot of personal things that she was struggling with her family.
Yeah.
And she came back completely transformed.
It's amazing.
She was
that
burdened, before she went with just these worries and anxieties about her family. And she came back just with that confidence and trust that everything's going to be under control. They're under Mary's protection,
That's
under
awesome.
Mary's mantle. And now she just has a peace about her and a surrender about her. And again, so that's the fruit of prayer. That's the fruit of Our Lady's motherly care and intercession, leading her to
That's beautiful.
a deeper trust in Jesus. You hear the stories where I go to Medjugorje and my rosary turns gold and stuff like that. That didn't happen for her. I've heard of people that it has happened. I know people that's happened. But in a sense, I trust more her experience because it's more of an interior experience that she has to live out every day, and she continues to strive to live that out every day.
I was just about to say that, because I would trust, those are nice things that when God makes a physical miracle, but it's those spiritual miracles, at least I think as are the spiritual fathers of a community, that really make a difference on us as the priests. Because I don't know, when I'm dealing with someone in spiritual direction as a director, when someone is able to make that leap of faith in their spiritual life, it just brings so much consolation to me as the director, not just to them. It's amazing how much, consolation we get. And so hearing that Mary gave her this consolation is a beautiful gift.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful gift and a beautiful witness to our church. So even though, like we've said, it may not be officially, stated as one of the ways, soon maybe we could have the list be up to 10 approved Marian apparitions. But for now, it remains at 9. But we have a beautiful opportunity for Mary, who once again is speaking to us over and over again to have faith in Christ, have faith in his church, to pray for your priests, to pray for the Pope, and to pray for peace. These things that she's saying over and over again throughout turmoil in the world. Like I said, she's always showing up in our world at points of turmoil so that there might be a conversion and there might be a change of heart.
And there usually is. It follows that.
Yeah.
So
even if it takes hundreds of years,
Yeah.
people are still being touched by Lourdes. People are still being touched by Guadalupe. People are currently being helped through the intercession of Our Lady, through the different apparitions throughout the world.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So we're running out of time here, but so I want to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So, Father Dan, do you have anything to plug?
Just fall in love with Our Lady, because the more you fall in love with Our Lady, the more you're going to fall in love with Jesus and the church. St. Maximilian Kolbe said it's impossible to love Mary enough because we can never love her more than Jesus did.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, don't don't be afraid. Like I've had many people say, well, the more I love Mary, I feel like I'm taking that away from Jesus, but it's the opposite. Yeah. The more we give our hearts and our souls to our mother, the more she'll not only protect them and guide them, but she'll lead them to an authentic love and relationship with the Lord. So I just say, if Marian Apparitions help you to do that, and they've helped me in a lot of ways, go at it, believe them. But more in general, just trust in Our Lady and trust in her motherly care for you, and let her help you to be a saint. Let her help you to be a saint.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you, Father Dan, for coming along.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
You are our second guest in the podcast.
Wow.
So,
and we get to keep you captive.
Yeah, that's what that means.
You're not running away yet. So thank you. Yeah, it's good to have, like I said before, people get bored listening to me talk, so I'm grateful to have someone else to, Absolutely. And especially another priest. We've had Brother Barnabas. He's studying to be a priest, but it's good to have another brother on to be able to talk about these things. So thank you, myself as well. And I know our guests thank you, and we thank you for listening today and joining us on this continued journey. Vince, where can they get more information about us?
So you can go to www.encountermercy.com to find our website where we have everything about us. You have all of our social media links for Facebook, Instagram, and if everything goes according to plan, YouTube for this episode.
Our first episode video.
So it all depends on how well I can edit video in a timely manner, and to see if this setup even looks good in our new studio.
I'm looking forward to seeing
I am
this.
going to tease the new studio on social media coming up here soon. So we'll see how that goes. But you can always listen to our podcast on our website, or you can listen to our podcast literally anywhere where you listen to podcasts. That could be iTunes, Android, Google and Android, and the same thing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Spotify,
iHeartRadio, literally all of them. You could find us because Father Andy did a fantastic job.
And if you have any suggestions on where you want to find us, let us know. Send us an email. You can do that on our website.